Hello, and welcome to our lesson on Python selection structures. I'm Janos Agustus Gonzalez, and today we're going to dive into how Python makes decisions with selection structures. Whether you're a beginner or just brushing up, this lesson is for you. Let's get started. To kick things off, I have a quick activity for you. Imagine we have a simple problem. We want to check if a number is positive or negative. How do you think we can do that in Python? Take a moment to think about it, and then we'll explore the solution together. Great! Now, let's talk about selection structures in Python. These structures allow our code to make decisions. The most common selection structures in Python are if, elif, and else. Here's how they work. If statement checks a condition and executes a block of code if the condition is true. Elif statement, short for else if, it checks another condition if the previous if statement was false. Else statement executes a block of code if none of the previous conditions were true. Let's start with the if statement. Here's the basic syntax. To create an if statement, we have to use the if function. So we have to type the keyword if, then followed by a condition. So if the condition is true, then the code below it that is indented will be executed. Now, let's get back to our problem. To check if a number is positive, first we have to create a variable. In this case, we're going to name our variable number, then we'll assign a value of 10 to our variable. So now we have a line of code that says number equals 10. Next is to place our if statement to make a decision. So type in the keyword if, then followed by a condition. But wait, how do we write our condition? So let's go back to our problem. We want to find out if a number is positive or negative. So when can we say that a number is positive? Yes, we can say that a number is positive if it is greater than 0. So we can then write our condition as the variable number, followed by the greater than symbol, then followed by 0. So our entire if statement is if number greater than 0. So to create a condition, we have to use comparison operators. These operators are used to compare two values. What are these? These are equal, not equal, greater than, lesser than, greater than or equal to, and lesser than or equal to. Take note of the double equal sign because a single equal sign denotes assignment. You are simply assigning a value to a variable, meaning you are storing the value from the right side of the operator to the variable from the left side of the operator. So if you want to compare two values, you have to use the double equal sign. That means you are comparing the values from the left and right sides of the operator. Every time a computer evaluates a condition, it will always return a data of Boolean type. A Boolean data type is a value that can only be either true or false, and it can also be represented in number form: 0 for false and 1 for true, or 0 for false and non-zero for true, because all the numbers, including the positive and negative, are evaluated as true. So here, if our condition is true, then the indented block of code after the if statement will be executed. So now we have printed a line that says the number is positive. Next, let's look at elif and else statements. These are used to check additional conditions if the initial if statement is false. Here's the syntax. If the condition 1 of the if statement is false, then the condition 2 of the elif statement will be evaluated and execute a block of code if it is true. The else statement, on the other hand, will execute a block of code if all the previous conditions were false. Now, let's get back to our code. We have already checked if the number is positive. Next, we have to check if the number is negative. Let's plug in our Elif statement. Since we all know that all negative numbers are smaller than 0, then our Elif statement should be Elif number is lesser than 0. And if our condition this time is true, then we're going to print a line that says the number is negative. But if our Elif statement is also false, then we can say that the number is neither positive nor negative. This is where the else statement comes in. Since all the previous conditions were false, we can now print a line that says the number is 0. In this example, Python will check each condition in order. It checks if the number is greater than 0. It checks if the number is lesser than 0. If neither condition is true, it executes the else block. Now, let's put it all together with a practical example. Suppose that we want to create a program that categorizes a person's age. We'll write a script that takes an age as input and prints out whether the person is a child, a teenager, an adult, or a senior. Now, let's create our code. So the first thing that we have to do is to create a variable. This time, we're going to call our variable age, and followed by the equal sign. Next is we're going to use the Python's input function. Then our message should be enter your age. And since this is a numeric data type, age is an integer data type, then we have to place our input function inside an int function. This is to convert the user's input into an integer data type. Now that we have captured the age, it is now time to check if the person is a child. So, when can you say that a person is a child? That is, if the age of the person is below 13. So our if statement should be if age is lesser than 13. If this is true, then we will print a line that says you are a child. But if this is false, then the person is not a child. So next is we're going to check if the person is a teenager. So what would be the age bracket for teenagers? That would be from 13 to 19. So let's plug in our elif function. Then our condition should be elif 13 is lesser than or equal to age, and age is less than or lesser than 20. So if age is from 13 to 19, then the person is considered a teenager. So if this is true, then we will print a line that says you are a teenager. But if this is also false, then the person is neither a child nor a teenager. Next is we have to check if the person is an adult. The age bracket of an adult is from, let's say, from 20 to 64. If the age of the person is already 65, that is already considered a senior. If the age is from 20 to 64, then the person is considered an adult. We will use another elif statement. Then the condition should be 20 is lesser than or equals to age, and age is less than 65. If this is true, then we will print a line that says you are an adult. But if this is false, then automatically the person is considered a senior. This is where we're going to use the else block. Else, then we will simply print a line that says you are a senior. So let's check if our code works. Let's run this one. Let's give, let's provide an age of 10. It says you are a child, so that is correct. Now let's check if the person is a teenager. So we'll provide an age between 13 to 19. So let's say 15. You are a teenager. What if the person is an adult? Let's provide an age, let's say 30. You are an adult. How about 64? You are an adult. But what if 65 and up? you are a senior. And now our code is finished. Also, since elif is just short for else if, that means there's an if statement inside an else block, we can also write our code like this. As you can see, the next if and else statements are part of the else block. We can also place an if and else statements inside an if block like this. We can place additional conditions inside our first if statement to have multiple outcomes. Now, for a quick assessment to test your understanding, try to answer these questions. Pause the video and try to answer these questions. When you're ready, continue to see the answers. Welcome back. Here are the answers to the assessment. Number 1. An if statement checks a condition and executes a block of code if the condition is true. Number 2. An elif statement checks another condition if the previous if statement was false, whereas an else statement executes a block of code if all previous conditions were false. Number 3. Here's a simple script to check if a number is even or odd. Here in our condition, we use the modulo operator. The modulo operator is similar to division, but only returns the remainder as an integer. If the number is divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, then that number is even. Otherwise, that number is odd. Great job! You've now learned how to use Python selection structures to make decisions in your code. That wraps up our lesson. I hope you found this lesson helpful and feel more confident in using if, elif, and else statements in your program. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper, check out the additional resources in the description. Thanks for watching and happy coding!